Hello, and welcome to My Urban Garden. I know that many urban gardeners are really challenged when it comes to space and also with vegetation and trees on their property. I feel really blessed because I have two large deciduous trees that really rain down quite a bit of leaves on my property. And this year, I decided to try something a little different with those leaves. Typically, we would just rake them and use the leaf blower and put them on the curb along with our neighbors for a monthly pickup that our municipality typically does. But this year I decided to use a lot more of those leaves. Number one, I'll be leaving the leaves on top of my resting in-ground garden beds. I'm going to do this because this year, zone 8B, 9, we really did have a lot of struggles with drought. And through that drought, a lot of the clay soil that's native to this area became as hard as adobe bricks. So my hopes is that by covering a lot of my in-ground garden beds in areas that I hope I can convert to in-ground garden beds, I'm going to cover those with leaves so that during the fall and winter rainy season, hopefully that soil can retain a little bit more moisture. I'll also be using our leaf blower / mulcher and creating more leaf mulch for my urban garden beds. Typically, I love to use shaved pine shavings or shaved cedar shavings because I think they look really attractive in my garden beds. But with the increased cost of gardening supplies and material, I think that using free leaf mulch may be the best idea for my garden beds as well as the floor of my greenhouse and the garden beds inside of the greenhouse. I'll also will be using the leaf mulch to really control some of the weeds. Typically in urban gardens, that means that our garden is impacted by our neighbor's garden or lack of gardening. So along the fence line, the weeds I found were extremely aggressive. So what I've decided to do is line around our fence with piles of leaves, wet those leaves down, and then cover them gently with a tarp or a piece of plastic, secured with some landscape staples, and just see if I can have better luck with weed suppression when it's time to eventually either plant out those beds or to till up that soil, and maybe create a pollinator garden around the borders as opposed to just using it for grass and decorative bordering. Maybe this can help tamper down the weed growth that I experience from our neighbor's weeds sort of invading underneath the fence. So I'll keep you all posted on how this gardening experiment goes with using leaf mulch. I'm also going to be using many of these bags of leaves in my composting pile. Composting probably is one of my least favorite gardening activities, but because typically I always just end up with a large pile of stinky, rotten, maggot-infested mess. So I'm hoping that the addition of this brown matter, this wet brown matter, I'm hoping I can possibly get some better compost moving forward, even if it takes a few months to a year. So I will keep you posted on how well this leaf experiment goes in my yard as far as moisture retention, weed suppression, and improving my compost. This is My Urban Garden. Thank you for visiting. And remember, there's always room to grow.